So, I got suggested this thing. Don't really know what it is, so yeah.
In 1957, a 24-year-old Australian man named John Longhurst visited the newly opened Disneyland Park
going
in
to
Anaheim,
Australia.
California. A regular viewer
Yeah,
of the
go
Disneyland
Australia.
television show, Longhurst was interested not just with the park, but the man who made it. The trip to Disneyland did not disappoint. Longhurst recalled, quote, "It was something different to anything I'd ever seen. There was something romantic about it." This trip began what would become a lifelong obsession with both Disneyland and Walt Disney. Longhurst studied Walt Disney's life and philosophy. He learned the story
I'm
of Walt's
planning to go to
inspiration for
Disneyland one day,
in
and
which Walt
Universal
described sitting on a
Studios.
bench at Griffith Park,
I've seen
watching
videos
his daughters
about
on a
it.
carousel.
People say it's the most magical places in history.
Fields where the parents and the children could have fun together.
A few years after he returned to Australia from his first Disneyland trip, Longhurst took his own children to a local animal park. At one point during their visit, Longhurst's children became interested in a monkey exhibit. Shortly after arriving to see the monkeys, the animals began to urinate, and the stench was so potent that one of the kids became ill. In an attempt to turn the day around, Longhurst took the children to get a milkshake, only to be served by a woman who was constantly scratching herself while making the drinks. Longhurst quickly left with his children, and as he drove away, he had his own Walt Disney moment. He said to himself, quote, "Somebody's got to do something about this." After selling a profitable lawnmower business, Longhurst began to more seriously consider the prospect of
So Walt Disney basically inspired him to make a
After
theme
repeated
park?
failed attempts, Longhurst, in his own recollection of the events, spoke with God, asking, quote, "Lord, where am I going to get this site to build my park?" According to Longhurst, God responded, quote, 10 miles out on the Gold Coast. The area was perfect.
Oh,
Not only
wow.
was it already a popular holiday destination, but there was land available. However, Longhurst was very selective about the land he needed for his park.
Australia
requiring that the
looks very
property have
big.
certain features for ideas he had. In 1974,
If any of
Longhurst
you,
purchased 85 hectares, or 210
if any of my
acres of land,
fans that's
10
from
miles from the
Aussie,
Gold Coast, per God's
how
suggestion.
big exactly is
Designing construction
Australia?
would take
Like, do you know
multiple
the
years,
number or
with
not?
Longhurst spending over 2 years operating a bulldozer by himself to construct the park's layout. 7 years and around $13 million later, the project was finished. And on December 15, 1981, Longhurst's Dream Park, aptly titled Dream World, opened to the public. When guests entered the park, they were introduced to a world of wonder unlike they had ever seen, assuming they had not been to Disneyland. Dreamworld's entrance was marked by a building that appeared to be a large train station. Beyond this was a quaint main street, with buildings that resembled a turn-of-the-century American town.
I will be doing
Guests would
different
also
parts
find an area
of
resembling an
reacting
old
to
West
this
town,
video.
with a grand river around which a paddle wheeler would travel. The park was described as Australia's answer to Disneyland, but it might be more fair to say that it was Australia's knockoff of Disneyland. This is exactly what Longhurst had hoped for, and even accounting for the similarities, the results were impressive. Dreamworld did have a few unique attractions, namely a state-of-the-art IMAX theater that dazzled guests. And even the elements that were directly lifted from Disneyland were given a unique Australian identity. Rather than Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Dreamworld had Kenny Koala and Belinda Brown. Rather than the Steamboat's river simply being the rivers of America, Dreamworld's river was named the Mississippi River, a hybrid
So kind of like North America's Mississippi River.
of North America's Mississippi River and Australia's Murray River. The river was flanked by Old West buildings on one side and Australian buildings on the other. This hybrid of Disneyland entertainment with Australian touches was a practice that would continue, and just a few months after opening, Dreamworld had another Disney attraction with an Australian twist. In 1982, a new area named Gumtree Gully debuted on the banks of the Mississippi River. The area was home to Gumtree Gully Hall, where Dreamworld guests could find the Koala Country Jamboree. This was a direct ripoff of Disney's Country Bear Jamboree, but with koalas. This elaborate animatronic show saw many scenes of koalas singing both
Also, to
classic
my Australian
Australian
fans,
and
what
American
exactly
songs.
is a koala?
Just like the Country Bear Jamboree, the show had a host and multiple musical acts. Despite the koala focus of the attraction, many other animal musicians were featured. There is a number where a rabbit sings Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. There is a number where an American bear shows up and sings a Confederate Army folk song. And there is even a number where a kangaroo sings an Australian lullaby, and in her pouch is a baby kangaroo who comes out and sings with her. The show also featured a beast known as the Bunyip, The bunyip is an aquatic monster that originates from Aboriginal mythology. In the
So,
Koala Country
kind of like
Jamboree,
Loch
though,
Ness
the bunyip
Monster
sings a
mixed
love
with a
song and wears
chupacabra?
a big cowboy hat. All of the acts come back in the end to sing Peter Allen's I Still Call Australia Home, before the big finale, Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport, which is the most Australian song of all time.
I should listen to that.
The Koala Country Jamboree was well received by guests and would become a favorite among Dreamworld fans. As time went on, Dreamworld continued to grow and expand, receiving many standard off-the-shelf amusement rides and some signature attractions. By the late 1980s, Dreamworld was Australia's #1 tourist attraction, despite Longhurst originally stating that he would like to own the park for the rest of his life. After consideration, he decided to sell the park to entrepreneur Bruce Jenkins and his company Dreamco. Longhurst believed Jenkins would continue developing his dream and provide the park with necessary cash flow. Unfortunately, this was not the case. After purchasing